Hello, guys. Welcome back. Welcome to the first episode of Community Live, a podcast series that's going to be featured on the HaloClanFollowers channel and live streamed. Now, currently, I probably won't be able to read any of these questions going on, so I'm going to be relying on our guests today. Today, we are joined by Otto, our SI Otto S031, a member of HaloClanFollowers and former leader of Spec Warcom. We are also joined by Panther 13, one of the leaders and founders of Third Echelon and currently part of the UNR. And we are also joined by Fred, 104 SI, the current Spartan leader in NavSpec War. We are also joined by Marcus Caesar, and I am sorry, Marcus, I forgot your clan name.
Europa Gaming.
Alright, Europa Gaming. So, how are you guys doing today?
Doing
Good.
great.
Alright.
I'm fabulous. Thank you very much.
Alright, so if you guys see any questions popping up in the comments down below, then just tell me, and then we'll answer them quickly, and then we'll continue on.
Well,
But today we're going to... Sorry?
I can see Zebros are in the comments now.
Alright, so for this video, for live stream, we're going to be doing some community topics. We're going to be talking about the old community, we're going to be talking about the new community, and we're going to be talking about some topics and other stuff. Now, who knows or who has met already before?
Well, I know
Um,
Fred.
Yeah.
And I think I've talked to Otto before, but I don't know Marcus.
I'm pretty new for a lot of veterans, even though I was with them for a while.
Okay.
So, yeah, anyways, on this podcast today, we're going to be just discussing the old community and stuff like that. We're also going to be talking a little bit about ourselves. And the whole point is to try to get more clans involved. We're going to be featuring small clans, big clans, and trying to mix them all together. I know this podcast is going to be helpful for people on basically HaloClanFollowers that are watching this, and we'll get to talk more about problems or opinions and stuff. It's not like the interview series that I have going on my channel. It sort of is, but we could all just sit back, relax, and talk more about other things that are going on. Alright. Alright, so we're going to talk about the old community. Who here was from the old community around 2010 to 2012?
I was.
Here.
Yeah.
So,
No.
okay. Alright, so I remember I was from the old community as well. I led a clan called UAF, the United Armed Forces. What clans were you guys in? And we'll start with Otto first. Oh wait, Otto, you said no, right?
Well, I was in the United Union Federation, but I got kicked out. So.
Alright, and Panther?
This is from 2010 and 2012.
Yeah.
That would have been UN, Third Echelon, NavSpec War, and NavCom, I believe.
Alright, how about you, Fred?
Well, as I said in the interview, come 2011, I kind of joined the community, and that was in True Spartans and then later NavSpec War.
Alright. And how about you, Marcus?
On and off on the original United Nations, and for a while an MLG team called Rainbow Ponies, which did involve in like clan stuff, but there was more of a joke clan.
Alright. So, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys enjoyed the old community who was here. Now, what were you guys' opinions on the old community compared to now?
Activity.
Yeah, back in the old day, like,
Yeah.
was it a lot better?
Oh.
Or...
Oh yeah, there wasn't this bitch fit of, I won the raid because this guy left the game, or there wasn't really a lot of that back then. It was more get him back in here so we can keep fighting. It was really active. We didn't have like this massive pissing contest to see who won the game because who sat in the game for 12 hours and didn't move or fell asleep or whatever. It wasn't like that back then.
Alright. So, yeah, many of you guys came from, like, some clans that were well known. I think, Marcus, you said, or who said they came from the United Nations?
I was on and off in like the
I
Marines
was
and the
there
United
too.
Nation.
Yeah, it was
So
there too.
I wasn't really prominent in there. I was just there to help out just whenever I had the chance to get on Reach.
Alright, so how was the UN? Was it a lot better back then? Or was it a lot, like, one of the most chill clans back then?
I mean, I met a few people on there. I wasn't that social when it came to Halo. Like, I only joined there because my friend was in it, and I did learn how to like at least a little bit about how to get better at the game through the UN. And later on, I just decided to leave because my friend left, and I was really naive at the time, and I just followed him. So I kind of just left with him. And from what I understand, I still knew a lot of people in the UN, and they pretty much had a lot of fun in it for a while.
Alright. And who else was from the UN? I know someone was trying to talk here.
Oh no, that was me.
Alright, so, oh yeah, you obviously were working for the UN, basically, right?
Well, I mean, I was the ranger leader at one point. I helped do them or help create some sort of, I guess, firewall is what we called it back then. It's basically this protective shield against foreign enemies that would try to attack the UN. That would the Panthers and Third Echelon would deal with that rather than having the military deal with it.
And I know someone was in the United Union as well. I believe it was you, Otto.
Yep, correct.
So, what happened with the United Union, basically?
Well, when I joined, I believe I got assigned to the army, I believe. And when I got assigned there, apparently I was a spy for, as we all love to know, NAVCOM. But at the time, I didn't even know what NAVCOM was. So, as I said in the interview you gave me when my previous name was Shadow Director, we then decided to go over to Halo 4 when that came out and start up a clan called the Altman Empire.
All right. Well, this is more of a podcast. We have some stories to share. So, does anyone really have like a story of like their most favorite time being in the old community? Like any war events, something that was really exciting, interesting to you guys?
This is like from 2010 to 2012 only, right?
Yeah, around that time, the golden ages, we'll say.
I remember though, with the ACH and DGA war, I think my favorite moments was just messing with DGA Truth. I know a lot of people say that I didn't do it, but like a lot of the time, I did show off a lot of the stuff that she did on YouTube. I remember this one time, I had her colors on. Even though I had ACH emblem on, I had her members' colors on, and she completely kicked the ACH from a raid, but she didn't see me. And I recorded it, so it was all on YouTube, and that was basically the turning point of that war. And a lot of people praised me for it, even though I just said I was just messing around with her.
All right. How about you, Panther?
My favorite time was in NavSpec because it was like for me, Third Echelon, the spying was very fun, but I've done it for so long, it's literally like breathing. So it's not fun to me anymore. I just do it because I'm good at it. But the most fun I've ever had was in NowSpec because when we were in the ODSTs, we had this god awful box ship called the Thunderstorm, and it was just this god awful ugly thing with one defensive cannon on the very top.
I like that ship, thank you very much.
It's the secret box.
It was just this massive box floating in hemorrhage. And these hinge heads would come in and attack it, or we'd have training on there, we'd fight Spartans on there, or practice on there, or whatever. And for my entire time that I was there, we never got to move on to the more sophisticated and fun ships that we had developed. We had like almost 20 ships created for the fleet. We had an entire fleet, and we couldn't get to any of the other ones because these hinge heads could not just get past this basic ship with one stupid cannon on it. It was frustrating, but it was fun that we got to fight on this ship for, God, it was months, and we never we never moved on from it because it was just, I don't know, like we just practiced all the time. We were in raids all the time. You got on and basically we had something to do, and it was like constant. It wasn't just, oh, we have something to do this day and the next week we had nothing. It was never like that with Now's back then. And we always had something to do. We could go in there, boom, training, or we have a match scheduled. And then we had, I remember, I can't remember the exact fleet name, but it was, I was fighting with the Spartan 2s, and it was a 3 matches. The first game we won, the second game they won, and the last game was literally a tie. So we had this massive, like, split down the middle tiebreaker, and it was the most intense game I've ever been in, and I've been obviously in a lot of raids, a lot of matches, and that to date is still the most intense battle that I had, because these guys, these Sangheili, they were not only skilled with Covenant weapons, because that's the only weapons that they would use. They wouldn't touch human weapons. They were strictly Covenant, and they did so well doing what they did. They had honor. They had these Covenant weapons. It was like literally fighting like actual hinge heads. I remember fighting with the Spartans. We were like giving call outs. We were like, it was just constant battles all the time, every day, every week. That was probably the best time in the community was doing that.
All right. So, how about you, Fred?
Well, I just wanted to add on to what Panther here said about those times back in NSW. I did have some of my greatest, as training sessions back then with Spartan 2s and ODSTs having the occasional competition. Some of my favorite games, though, it went between NavSpec and Navcom. It was that general 2011, 2012 kind of era. But as we got the Navy up and played on their ships like the Thunderstorm, my favorite games were ones where the ODSTs and Navy would try and lock down the ship and guard a quote-unquote ship AI, aka armor ability, and the Spartans would have to go in there and try and infiltrate it. And I've got to say, those are some of the greatest customs I've had with inter-clan. But the elites I remember back then, there were very, very, very few who actually played by their Sangheili rules. Most of them liked using human weapons or liked to spawn kill, and for some reason, people were really, I don't know, they seem to really want to get into those kinds of games, and I have no idea why.
Them damn spaghetti people.
All right. So I think we forgot Otto. Otto, do you have a good favorite time?
No, I don't.
All right. So we're gonna.
Why? I'm curious. Why don't you have like a favorite moment?
Because I didn't really do much in the community back then apart from piss people off.
That was
Oh.
me. That was me too.
Well, that has to be a good moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be something where you just piss someone off to the point to rage or to they said something completely fucking stupid.
That's Halo. That's like 80% of the
Okay,
community.
I remember.
Exactly.
I do remember me and Optimum Alloy and Honest X Vision remember poaching a load of members from the United Union Federations and turning them against their own leader shortly after the fall ban. I guess that's one of my favorite moments.
I would have paid to see that actually. That'd have been really funny to see.
All right. So Marcus, you also I forgot to ask you. I think.
Wait.
Did
I mean,
did I ask you?
yeah, I was the first one. I mentioned the
Oh,
ACH thing.
sorry. Sorry, my bad.
Get your head in the game, bro.
All right. Well, I'm gonna share my story. I believe my favorite time was the Golden Age, obviously, because that's where I first joined the Halo Clan community, created my own clan, UAF. So one of my favorite moments was probably being in the raid with UUF, and at that time, basically, UUF it was basically the JARC versus the Acto war, and I was on the Acto side with DoD, and pretty much there was this one raid. At the time, my clan transitioned from UAF to a clan called Virus, which is the same clan, basically, same members. We just decided to go rogue for like about a week, and this was the best raid that we had because Strike was also gone, right? So when Strike was gone, there was an acting leader. I'm not sure if any of you guys heard. His name is Zektorn.
I've heard of him. I never met him.
Yeah,
What's up?
he's been on it. Yeah, he was with allies with my vice president of Battleable Kazoo that I used to have. He's in Navcom now, known as Malcolm. But getting back to the story, like we did a raid with UUF on our own map, and we kind of they kind of just tried to rush. They didn't get inside the base, and it was around like 2 hours long. And I guess the raid rules was to try to assassinate the president. The whole point was to assassinate whatever president gets assassinated first, basically loses the raid. And pretty much I was the president, and the other president was Zektorn as a replacement person. Now, you would think that UUF would be smart enough to actually kind of stay back, or the leader Zektorn would be smart enough to stay back, but no. He decided to kind of actually try to rush the base, and he got assassinated like within the 2 hours because he was pretty much getting shot at, and we didn't know who he was because we couldn't see him from like we didn't know where he was because he was just always with a lot of people. But when we assassinated him, that was probably the best moment for me. But have any of you guys actually witnessed the map Firebase Delta by UUF?
I may have.
It's basically a map where it's impossible and you have to basically jump on each other's heads to get in it.
Yeah, I think I have seen that.
We did a raid there one time too, and they actually lost the raid too.
That's just typical UUF. They'll sit there and put this stupid obstacle in front of you that's just ridiculous, and then you get past it, and then they're just like, shit, now what?
Yeah. The problem is, like, no one. I remember we were one of the first clans to get into the base. No one knew how to get into it, and that was the time. Like, what was your guys' opinion really like on maps that back then? Like, raid maps where people couldn't even get inside the base.
They weren't that common, to be honest. I mean, not the ones that I can remember. I mean, like I remember, I have to, I can't really express this that much because most of the time I was either in the UN or NavSpec for raiding, and in the UN, and when you said assassinate to live, that actually brought up a memory because we did a cover up once. We were fighting, I think it was two fronts. The army was fighting a clan, and we were fighting the same clan or a rebel clan at the same time. It was a former ranger leader, and JB wanted us to spawn kill them. And I didn't teach my guys to sit there with a sniper rifle and sit there and just shoot. So we were like, okay, and this may seem like, wow, that's pretty easy, but like back then, I never did anything like this. I never just sat there and just shot somebody. I didn't think it would ever be like that. So I trained them for like scenarios, and we were always practicing different things. And we came to do, we got our main first assignment was to sit there and spawn kill this guy, and we're like, wait, what? We're supposed to sit up there on a wall and just shoot him? That's all we have to do? And we lost big time. We got our asses just handed to us because we've never done that before. And we assassinated the leader of that raid like 2 or 3 times, and JB covered it up saying that this entire raid that we did for like 2 hours was an assassination raid. And we just were like, all right, sure, whatever. But going back to the unfair raids, yeah, the only time that I ran into was actually when I was defending the unfair raids with the UN, because they were pretty unfair, and I didn't like them. But that's one of the reasons why I like NavSpec War, because it wasn't about that. We weren't sitting on top of a base camping with a sniper rifle and then just shooting people who had inferior weapons. It was, down to the assault rifle combat, and that was it. But
All right. Ah.
I have a base, and
What-
all right. Back in like I believe this was like early 2012. I was in a clan called the Pulse of Sea, and this was like a Final Fantasy based clan, which was something pretty unique. And I joined it just because, well, it's just another clan. I wanted to just jump. I was pretty young at the time. We got into a raid. This was against another elite clan, quote unquote. Elites. Using nothing but like human weapons. Herder, and the only way you got it was like a giant wall, but you can get around to the other side of the base. And we just checked around this wall all the time. We didn't know how to get into it. And then I remember going into one corner of the base and I saw the highlight for the human turret. I'm like, oh crap. And then I look up, you have to like turret jump in like some weird maze like thing. Like there was like a line of like 8 of them, but like a few of them were actually kill barriers. So I'm like, what the hell? So we spent at least, at least the rest of the let's see, they spent like 30 minutes trying to like charge the base at the front, trying to shoot them down, and I'm in the back just dying a lot because I kept finding many of the kill barriers until I finally got the little maze thing down, and I eventually got to the top of the base and I assassinated 2 of their leaders. And then once I told the rest of the clan, the simple way through on that little maze of turret handles or whatever you call them, we got in and we like held it down for at least 3 hours until they eventually just raged quit. That was my favorite base to ever take over. And it was just a giant box too. It wasn't like the box ship you mentioned, but it was just like a giant, like a whole bunch of Coliseum walls in the middle of Hemorrhage with just a few buildings and weapons literally just scattered around the floor.
Well, I could say that for sure. Like the old maps were a lot different than the new ones for sure.
oh yeah, yeah.
So let's move on to the new raid map since that's basically what we're talking about. Now, I'm gonna start this off. Back then we didn't really have modded maps, did we?
No,
For the golden age.
no.
Now that we have modded maps, what do you guys see? Because I know I see like the modded turrets, the modded falcons. I see so much stuff. Is it like really? Do you think it's fair?
I mean, if you're gonna make these mods, you have to take it into tolerance. Like this is one thing I can't stand about this new ideology. Let's give ourselves these weapons of just like snipers, and then these modded turrets and whatever. We'll give the enemy a sword, and they have to run all the way across the map and get shot and do that same thing over and over again. At least I want some of the stuff that I've seen. There's some I imagine that don't do that. But if you're gonna mod things, you should take it into consideration. Like, hey, okay, this is supposed to be a combat situation or, a raid. What would the enemy actually bring into them, like into combat? Would they bring a Scorpion? Would they bring a Falcon? If I'm going to use mods, then I need to balance it because those raids, the ones that are balanced to where it goes down to legitimate skill and tactics, those are the ones that you'll remember. A couple of years down the road, even to date, the ones that I remember the most was in Knapsack because of how intense they were. They were fun. They were amazing, and we didn't have these stupid bitch fits to see who won, or we didn't make them run across the entire map. I remember all this stuff because at that time and in that context, they were fair. They were fun, and that's what this community is like extremely lacking. They don't want to do that. They don't want to lose. They want to be the winner, no matter what the case is, and they'll justify it by making up some bullshit excuse. And that
Herder, you
Hey.
took over our base. We won the raid.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, just be fair. Learn some strategies, learn some tactics, educate yourself because that is like the one thing that defines people who go on to do things like what we're doing. Like this is the reason why I can sit here and talk about this because I know strategies, I know tactics, I've studied that stuff, and I can apply it to Halo.
I
But
know one of the things. Sorry for cutting you off, but
Well, that's
I completely agree about that. And I just honestly don't like the way how the Reach community is just so picky about just all the situations that they want to come up with to just say we want a raid. And
yeah,
recently with Europa, we've gotten pretty much lenient when it came to clans. Like when we have bases, we give the enemy rocket hogs, we give them revenants. I think two of our bases, we give them like two wraiths to use because we like it. So you see mortars jump over the base, and then we have to like dodge them and stuff. Because let's be honest, do you really want to sit on a base for 12 hours shooting at someone that has like a plasma repeater just shooting around you and just wait for them to leave the game? It's the most boring thing ever. And I've been in plenty of clans that force you to do that. It's like there's a reason a lot of people don't want to be in this community anymore because these clans force that upon other people, and it just
yeah.
gets so boring.
Yeah, the annoying thing is that it's like if you have like I know I was working on basically a military doctrine about this so that people get up on it. I have it almost done. I just haven't touched it for a while, but it's basically saying just showing people how to design fair raid maps so that they may not know. Maybe they do know, but they just choose not to do it. But if they can see and template it to where, okay, hey, this I can win this raid if I use tactics and strategy, and it's the home field advantage should be about knowing what tactics work and what don't work. The job of the enemy team is to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and then using that experience for later down the road to perhaps use that using basic psychology. Oh, hey, Deviable used this map this one time, and I remember fighting him. Maybe his ideology has stayed something similar to where he has a secret teleporter still behind the map, or maybe he has a secret entrance somewhere on the map because that's just the way Deviable is. Because some people are like that, and I've used that to my advantage countless times, and it works. But people who sit there and just try to hide the superiority behind these stupid walls is just pathetic. Like, come on, get down in the dirt. Start, earning your place here. Don't just sit there and claim you're high and mighty when you get on the field to a real clan match, you get your ass kicked because you didn't practice at all. I mean, come on. It's like something this community just does not grasp, but that we need to fail in order to succeed. Back when I was in the 22nd TAC, one of the things that we practiced the most was we went into matchmaking without using a single power weapon. We lost like 2 weeks straight of not winning a single game, and we practiced every single day. But guess what? When we won our first game, we could say that we won that game without using a single power weapon. It came down to skills and tactics. That is something that inspired the rest of the ODSTs, and as time went on, we got better and better without using power weapons. And that was something that we brought to the game with us. We brought to the field and raids with us because we took the initiative to fail and fail and fail in order to succeed. And this current community will not and does not do that right now, and they need to.
I know your
Depends on
feeling.
who you refer to, really.
Yeah, I mean, with my clan, there's a limitation when it comes down to how my clan handles raids. When it comes down to weapons, we only got one laser, one rocket, one sniper. Everyone else has a DMR or even just an AR on the wall holding it down. And even there have been raids where the enemy would take our base momentarily, and they would use like four snipers, two rockets, and two lasers, but we would still take it over again because overall, it's really just about tactics. I mean, You can have the most OP base in the world, but as long as you can understand your enemy and know how to get through them, you'll eventually, take it over. I've had all my raid bases, no matter what, they get at least tested 3 or 4 times before we'd actually start using real raids on them. And one of those times has to be that the base needs to be taken over. I have no bases in Europa that are impenetrable. There's always at least a giant entrance for the enemy to try to get through. We even have a map that has 2 entrances for the enemy, 2 giant ones that they can use. And as long as it's possible for them to take it over, we use it because it's just going to be so boring if they can't get into it. There's what's the challenge of just actually facing another clan if you're just going to sit there and just literally press buttons all the time. If I want to
Yeah,
do that,
if we're gonna design these unfair bases to where the enemy will not they'll waste 2-3 hours, maybe 4 hours of their time doing this one thing. You might as well just make a single hallway, take off all traits so they have to walk with no weapons and they're one shot kill and they shoot down that hallway for 4 hours. I mean, the point is to obtain the base and for a battle, not to sit there and camp with it's just it's not fun for anybody.
what's the best moment when a enemy clan gets this happened to me like 3 or 4 times in the Halo clan community. I would take over an OP base of my clan, or at least the clans I would be in with, and the then the enemy would try to take over the base, and it's like so OP. And then what's funny? They would claim a raid win because the base is OP. You were the ones who put this base on.
Yeah. The funny thing is, if you ask some of these guys to switch the roles to where they're on the attacking team, they won't do it because they know that they won't be able to take the base, and that's a good checks and balance thing that they should apply too. Is that, oh hey, if I can't take this base at all with so many hours of effort, I probably shouldn't ask other people to take this base. I mean, it's just it's common sense, but for some reason, a lot of the people in the community cannot grasp how common and how just to be basically rational about it. It's not difficult. It shouldn't be.
Now, Fred, I have a question for you.
Sure.
All right. So you've been with the Spartans and for a long time, right? NASPEC.
Yeah.
Was the rating you basically said in your interview that you kind of only did it with UNSC clans raids and stuff like that, right?
Well, back then we had plenty of Covenant and UNSC groups to fight, but we started with the Covenant, and some people will take note of it, but later on we did have to start fighting UNSC groups because of how scarce honorable elites became.
All right. So was the raid rules kind of, or was the raids like kind of how, what is it, Panther was explaining? Did you experience that ever or no?
Mm, well, a lot of our raids, yeah, we did have really good, intense raids. Most of them were practiced within our own clan. Those were the most intense, in my opinion, the ones where we knew our people were going to play by our own rules and not use OP power weapons and stuff like that. But most of our offensive raids, I would say, were, well, the ones that our Spartans went into were pretty overpowered. One of our Spartans would get an invite into a game. It would be a horrible, horrible spawn kill, like 8 snipers, all with camo up on high areas with an open spawn. But the funny thing is about those, our Spartans back then, well, we used to take those maps from people and, get into there, invite our other Spartans in, turn it around on them, get kicked from the game, call it a win ourselves because obviously we turned it around on them and got kicked for it. But I don't know. I don't remember fighting a lot of other clans that gave us fair raids back then. Um, Personally, I've felt it's more of a recent thing for my clan since we don't, deal with people who don't have fair raids.
All right. And Otto, I know you ran the Shield of Shadows, right? What were raids
Correct.
like? What were raids like for you?
99% of the time they were very unfair. To be honest, we did have quite a few OP raid bases, but I'm gonna be completely honest here. I didn't actually know how to make raid bases back then. I'm not very good at forging, whereas now I guess I'm okay. But I mean, logically, I've never had anyone to kind of sit down and show me because when you do try and approach, people from the old community, they just literally tell you to go fuck yourself or they think you're a spy or some stupid shit like that. So You know what I mean? You don't really have someone to kind of give you the guidelines, but then they complain about the bases you produce, but then you don't really get the correct idea. But bases we have attacked, like we attacked a clan called Wolfpack, they tend to use community raid bases, which is what the smaller clans seem to use a lot. I personally don't like doing that, but I noticed a lot of clans seem to use community raid bases to the point where you already know how to take it over and it's a bit crap because you've just seen the base hundreds and hundreds of times. I believe there's a base called the UNSC 4. I can't really remember the full title, but it's on the file share if you type it in. And personally, the bases on a whole, I haven't really experienced anything ridiculously OP. But when I have fought, most of the time things were unfair, but they just it's in a way it's I can't really explain how things were really.
All right. So let's move on to this general topic, and we'll ask you guys one by one for this. And do you believe, and this is going to involve old and the new community raid maps. Now, do you believe that the old community raid maps were better than the new ones, or do you believe the new ones were better than the old ones? And just explain why. So we'll start with you, Otto.
Okay, well, the old raid bases, they had, I guess they used what they had more resourcefully. Because if you look at the new raid bases, there is certain mods you can download, like mod walls, and people just do stupid shit like myself and just shove everything everywhere because you don't know what to do. But if you look at the architecture of the classic maps, they have a lot more feel, and you kind of feel as if you're in a themed environment, and every clan has its own unique architecture. Whereas the new maps resolve in mods and everything else. Even though I do love mods, there's even myself, we do break the limits a lot because unlike the old community which focused more on architecture, the current community focuses more on decoration than the actual function of the base. Whereas the old community focuses more of the function of the base than decoration.
All right. So you're more for the old community maps, right?
Correct.
All right. So let's move on to you, Panther.
Um, hmm.
Would you like me to ask a question again, or do you?
Oh, I'm just trying to think of how to put this into a different context. I guess the ones that the raids that were it's kind of a toss up because both older community and newer community both had some pretty unfair bases and both had some more in the older community had some fairer bases rather relative to the newer community. So I'm probably going to go with the older community because of the fact that there was a lot of I guess like the leaders were more intelligent back then to where they had some basic common sense as to now to where they don't is so I'm just gonna go with the older community.
All right. Fred, how about you? I know you kind of been in like just one clan the whole time, but have you noticed any changes or no?
Well, I can speak of experience in my own clan. Back then, like I said, I found a lot of OP maps, long bridges with snipers, things like that. And our clan maps, well, we didn't have the same rules we did back then. Um, our leaders would forge maps that have things like those, Spartan-sized crawl spaces where elites can't fit through to get to the armory, things like that, Gauss cannons. And we had a lot of maps like that back then, but I think in more recent years, although there are still those classics like the 22nd Tactical FOB, um, our newer raid maps, they focus both on functionality and appearance, and I think that our later ones, since we don't really use mods, I think our later ones are a lot better than our older ones here.
All right. So let's move on to Marcus last.
I I tend to don't really go, against, old community and new community maps because to me, a raid base depends on necessarily the clan itself and also the forge. And this can go from like both eras because, like everyone said, in the old community, we had OP bases and fair bases. And in the new community, we still have OP bases and fair bases. It's just I'm more into, design of a base too. And recently I've been seeing in a new community that there are plenty of forgers out there that don't really get recognition, but their raid bases are not only functionality, they work, but they're beautiful. I know, was it recently we worked on a city map made by Mech, which is one of our Caesars in our clan who used to be in the UGN. He made a raid base where in order to actually get to the base, you get to take over a outpost first, and then you have to go all the way up a what was it a orbital elevator, and this looks like an orbital elevator into a smaller confined area where the you have to go through like a small like area just to get to the armory, and it looks beautiful, and it still works too, where it's not OP or anything. Like I said, it's more of like, and then with the mods too, everyone complains about, the turrets and stuff, but there are other things to the mods that actually make a raid base look beautiful. Like I've seen mods where they use like the wreckage of some vehicles around as a aesthetic wise. Some people actually use that as cover for some clans. The fire, definitely a good thing too, especially for some areas. Let's say you want to. I've seen raid bases that actually use little sticks and make torches in tunnels, which is something that not many raid bases even use. But it's like once in a while thing I see. I really just think it just goes down to the forger itself. And recently, I've been seeing a lot of new talent come out from the community. And one thing I noticed is that there is a lot of criticism when it comes down to raid bases, where people are starting to get the idea of a guideline. Like I said, it depends on forger and where they're getting their information from. And it seems like with the very few I met in the newer community, they're starting to get their at least they're starting to understand now what is a good base and what's not a good base. So I'm actually on the newer side of the community in terms of aesthetic wise, the good mods and the newer talent of it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna throw in my opinion too. So, personally, I'm gonna come out and say that I love the old community raid maps. I'm pretty sure everybody said the old ones, or some of us said new ones, someone said old ones, but the old community raid maps, in my opinion, personally, were a lot better. Like back in the old community, we had a lot of fortress maps, right? And the fortress maps were something that were pretty interesting. You had to try to get inside. You had to try to take the base, and then pretty much I believe at that time everybody usually just put their spawn outside, so that way it's a lot more better, and it was like no teams, right? But when I came back to the community in 2014, I believe, around September, when I decided to restart my clan UAF, and then went to back to Virus, and then went to EEF and all these other clans, I've noticed that a lot of the maps were honestly a bit more smaller. I think, like there's a lot more bridge maps, and I think that came from Halo 4. And when I also came back, I noticed like there's some UNSC maps. When I was in the UNSC maps, a lot of the raid maps there were small, and pretty much it was a long hallway. So I'm not sure if you guys understand what I'm trying to say, but do you know like a lot of those bridge maps like in the community are from like new ones, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I make quite a few of them.
All right. But yeah, honestly, the bridge maps, I kind of find them to be a bit unfair. Usually, like the fortress ones, there's usually at least two or one solid entrance. Although, like, you could, like, find a way to get inside it. Now, I know on Halo Reach, everybody used that one mountain in the big island, right? As their big fortress thing. And it
Montana.
was, yeah, it was kind of like that. And everybody had to try to, like, you had, like, a whole island to try to get around it. But when I was in the UNSC community part of the clan EEF, I noticed that there was like a lot of more hallway maps where you basically have a bunch of people on one end trying to shoot down the people that are just like on the other end, trying to get inside the base. I'm not sure if you guys know this one map, but there's like a long hallway. There's a mongoose in there or something like that. But it's on the other end for the defenders. There's like turrets and like barricades, and then when you go up the stairs, there's like an armory, and there's like warthog, like what is it? Escort warthogs. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys been on that map. Yeah, that map to be exact is something that I find to be like a little bit more not as great as the old ones, because I kind of found the old ones to be a lot better. So
Mm.
yeah, but we're gonna. Do any of you guys have anything else to cover on this topic of the community raid maps?
Well, I have a raid base which I have made, and it's a long hallway with a massive wall fortress over it as well. But we don't allow anyone which is on top of the wall fortress to fire anyone at the first floor, because we have eagle's eye over everyone, and it won't be particularly fair. So what I did is I have a 50-50 line there, which is, near the exit of Water Cave, and the only guys that are allowed to actually engage the enemy are the people within the ground floor, and the only things that are there is as simple as one machine turret and a Gushog, and that's it. And then you got up a bridge, and you got another torrent, but it's nothing people can't get over. So you can make bases like that, but I always make them so my units can only engage them when they get past certain points, instead of just firing loads of rockets and shooting loads of lasers and snipers and making the raid all crap. That's something I personally don't do anymore, anyways.
All right, so let's cover this quickly. Otto, are you yes for the raid? Are you yes for the old one or the new one?
I would say honestly about a 50-50.
All right, and Panther, you're for the old ones.
Yep.
Fred, what are you for?
Because it's pretty biased towards my clan, I'd have to say the new ones.
All right, and Marcus.
50-50 like Otto.
All right, so we're kind of split halfway through, basically, all of us.
Sorry.
It's all right. Anyways, we're gonna move on to the next topic, but before we move on, we're gonna do a little bit of an advertisement here. So this podcast of Community Live is brought to you by Stimulus Network. Join the Stimulus launch this fall by subscribing to Stimulus Production, a YouTube channel where you're going to be focusing on gaming news, achievements, hunts, reviews, and much more. Also subscribe to Team Stimulus, the Let's Play channel that brings a lot of Let's Players together to entertain many of you people. So basically that was a bit of an advertisement for a new gaming channel and more gaming team.
Part of this complete breakfast.
Part of this complete breakfast. Alright, so yeah, let's move on. What was I going to talk about? I had a little topic in my head. I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, let's talk about people. So there's a lot of people in this community that I think are a lot more stupid than they were in the old community. Like I think someone said some of them were more intelligent back then than they are now.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Alright. So, I'm not sure if any of you guys want to call out people. I'm going to probably call out like one or two people, but who do you believe is like the most stupidest person in the community right now? And we'll start with Otto. The two people.
I no comment.
He knows when to get in the shit store.
Panther, do you want to talk crap?
I have a very long list of this, but I'm gonna keep this short. People who are irrational, who don't see perhaps the larger view of things, would be people like Shaky Bionic, Leg Link, trying to tread carefully on this one. Because it's
Be open about yourself.
I'm trying to, but at the same time, I'd piss off a lot of people too.
This is the Halo Clan community. You're born to do it.
Those two alone, I'm already gonna get hate for it. So, like I said, treading carefully. But basically, it's just the irrational side of people to where they're not looking at the larger context of their beliefs or their ideology, to where they want to prove and justify that they're right without looking in the context of what they've said before, what they've done before, what they've said that they were going to do, and they just stray away from that. And that we have like a lot of trolls, especially now than before in this community, where they'll sit there and just troll people. And if you block them or you do anything to counter them besides the fact that you have to engage in their little game, then it's stupid, because it's like this community shouldn't be based on that. I understand the military community has politics. It does have its politics in there, but that they don't need to involve trolling. Trolling is something completely different. So when people start trolling, like, this is just what I do. I just end up, blocking that said individual, because if they want to go ahead and troll, then they can troll. But they're not going to troll me or do that to me as much as everybody else, because I'm just simply not going to put up with the stupidity. And I know I made this thing back in Third Echelon to where I publicly stated this. And
Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah, and Leg Link, he stopped trolling me as much because of the fact that he wanted to come, and it's nothing like I want to argue with people, I want to debate with people, but I don't want to talk to somebody who's gonna pull up the fact that I'm a panther pussy or whatever type of insult I get. Like one of the things Leyland called me was a pedo bear because I did intelligence and spying whatever since I was a pedo bear. It was like, really? Come on, this is stupid.
I would take that as an insult. I would take that as a nickname. Like, yeah, I'm
I
a
was,
pedal bear. Watch out.
like they try to insult you, but you look at it like that was stupid. That was just what? Wow, really? But it's just like they take things out of context. And the funny thing about that is that he called me a pedo bear, but yet he led a Splinter Cell clan that was based on intelligence, based on spying. So the context of this is that if I spy, I'm a pedophile. If he spies, it's intelligence and espionage. The context in this is important, and people need to put things in perspective, into context before making a comment. And if they screw up, like I have before, and Lightlink has done before, where he brings up something that where I've said something before, and he brings it back into context, and I correct myself, like, oh, you know what, you're right, because I am wrong. I did say this, and I'll correct myself. But I'm not going to sit there and deny it because I want to feel better about myself or whatever. People need to just, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, fight for what you believe in, but put it into context first.
All right, now I guess we kind of moved into the old and new community at the same time
Oh yeah, we
by
did.
putting up leg link. So let's just keep it like that. And I guess Otto, you still want to remain anonymous to some people.
Well,
I got people. I got people.
Well, we'll get to you, but let's talk to Fred. Fred, I know
um,
you
all
have some
right.
problems with Navcom Spartans. Or yeah,
What? Sorry.
you had problems with Navcom Spartans too,
That's
right?
Otto.
Oh wait, we're talking to Otto. Okay,
Yeah,
Otto. Sorry, my bad. Let's go with you, Otto, first.
Yeah. So there's something I have noticed, which has been occurring a lot recently within the modern community, and that's people faking their gender. And that is something I really cannot stand, that they're whoring themselves out there to basically gain members and put themselves above everyone else because they seem to think having a fake vagina makes them a better clan leader.
Going to get
And
that
you know
internet
what?
pussy.
I'm definitely gonna call out the guy. His name's called Mr. Youngling. Well, that's not his name, but Youngling is what he goes by. And I've
Wait,
spoken
young?
to, yeah, Youngling. I've spoken
Oh, okay.
to him a couple years back, and I actually have video evidence on my computer, which I'm glad to send to anyone that requests this from me. And if you listen closely, you can tell that that is a young, immature guy. But then, if you speak to the man on Xbox Live now, he sounds and claims to be like a female. And when I called him out and told him that it's very easy to change your voice with a Turtle Beach, he was saying, I'm a girl, I'm this, that, and the other. And he took it as far as making rumors up about me to to try and get me fucked over. Apparently, I sexually harassed him online, and they took it as far as creating kick accounts of my previous name, Shadow Director, and sending messages to each other back and forth to try and frame me for this. But then uploaded a video saying that
Hey,
it was
hey, baby,
bullshit.
let me show you my plasma pistols.
So or as DJ Truth would like to say, rockets.
Oh,
So
baby.
That's fired.
yeah, that's pretty much
Literally.
to say. I mean, the trolls is something within today's community that definitely needs to stop, and that type of person I cannot stand, and I have no respect and no tolerance for that sort of behavior. Same as Panther. I just disagree with it on a whole.
All right, so let me just jump in here quickly. Getting back to it, like you were talking about people changing their gender just to try to head into community or something like that. Now I'm gonna list a few names, and let's try to all talk about this at once, and like say yes, it's if it's a boy or a girl. So let's start with one of the first claims. I know Kurt, the one that runs the Facebook pages and everything, claims that Adam Osman of Oni is a boy. Do you guys believe that? Let's start with you, Otto.
To be honest, I believe him because he's my friend, of course. But then when I looked into things, I did see some odd, I guess, things that occurred when I was speaking to the person on Kick. Usually, I guess the female, they always have a Skype, right? And they always have something. And I was always curious about that person because I've heard so much about Osman through so many people in the community, and the main one being Tyler. So I hosted my small investigation towards that person, but I noticed when I called her, my bad, Sean, there was always a large spark and so much anger, as if she was or it was worried of being exposed. And to be honest, it's not my place to say, but I'm gonna say it's a 50-50 because she shows signs of being a girl, but then has signs of being a guy as well. So I can't really say because I don't really know that much to make a judgment call there.
Well, in this day of age, you can be both.
All right. So
Correct.
Yeah, shit.
let's try to nail these fast. So Panther, is Autumn Osman a boy or a girl?
I can say with 100% certainty that Osman is indeed a boy. I cannot say why, and Fred, you'll love this because it's literally classified. I can't talk about it, but I do know that Osman is a boy.
All right, Fred, do you know much about Osman?
You would say it's classified.
No.
I have no comment, sorry, on any of these things. I mean, if a person wants to call themselves a boy or a girl, I suppose their gender is their own business.
All right. How about you, Marcus?
Uh,
Do you know Osman that well?
no comment, because as far as I know, it could be a boy, girl, or platypus, but I wouldn't care.
All right, let's quickly change to another person that's also been called a boy but claims it's a girl. Let's talk about DGA Truth or It Michelle.
That is a flying spaghetti monster there, sir.
All right, Marcus, let's start with you since.
I'm sorry, like I've heard like stories, and I'm just gonna say this right now. That is most likely, if that is a guy, then that must be one fabulous ass guy. I'm just saying because like I know plenty of gay people in New York City, and as far as I know, DGA Truth could just be a guy that's just either gay or really feminine and is just claiming to be a girl on Xbox Live. Because quite frankly or not, most girls' voices are not as deep as DGA Truth's, and
Oh no, they are.
my family's mostly girl, so I pretty much got on the bottom line of girl voices in general. And as far as I know, there's a bit of a gruff sound to her quote unquote voice. So I'll just say at most it's a guy, but if he wants to be a girl, props to him.
All right, and Fred, no comment still.
Yeah, the answer is going to carry over generally for the whole section.
All right, Panther, do you know much
Um,
about?
Working with intelligence as long as I have, I think there's just some things I just don't want to know, and I think that's just where I can leave that to mystery. I can leave that to a secret. I don't want to know.
All right, and Otto.
I'll let YouTube speak my comment.
Well, that was actually something interesting. I don't know really how it. I guess it came from you, Otto, where we started talking about this. But let's talk. We talked about Otto's kind of people that he despises or things that are stupid, such as Youngling, in your opinion. Panther, you went into something about Shaky. What's his name?
Uh,
Bionic. And
Bionic,
then
yeah,
you went into a great length about Link.
yep. I didn't.
Uh,
I know I'm gonna get some backlash on that too.
All right, and then I think I was trying to get Fred out there, but then I mixed up Fred and Otto. So, Fred, is there anyone like you think like in the community, like in your past or like current, that you kind of just thought were like outright stupid or something?
No, I'm going to, say I've met a lot of interesting characters throughout my time, but most of them, most of the people I've met, generally have some type of a good, not intention, but kind of context for their actions. Before you mentioned, do I think if the Navcom Spartans are some kind of idiots? And honestly, no, I don't. I know there's a few good people in there, and they're the way they treat our clan. That's reasonable coming from where they are at. So I've met, like I said, a lot of interesting people, but there may be a lot of a-holes out there but really, I'm not going to start pointing fingers at anyone.
All right. Let's move on to Marcus. You had a list, which you already told us before.
I got a shit list. Anyways, I want to talk about the person that even got me back in the community. And recently, he's back in the MCC community, and I don't care if I'm going to get hate for calling him out. Spartan Joe 214. Now, let me start this off. This guy was a fantastic leader, starting off in like mid 2013 when I first joined back into the Halo Clan community with the ally colonists of Halo. This guy would his trainings were great. He had a great clan. Everything was set up perfectly. But then recently, but when I was in there, things for some reason started to change a bit with that guy. At one point, he actually thought I was a spy because I had a friend that got kicked out of the ACH, and he kind of had like a little grudge against me and a few people, including a jerking Slav. And that started tensions inside the ally colonists of Hadel for a while. Things progressed. I stayed in the ACH for a while, and I later said to Joe, because at around late 2013, I wanted to start off my own clan. I wanted to start off something new. So I told Joe, I'm just going to leave. I'm sorry, bro. I've had a long run. I even gave him full respect, and I wanted to ask him if he can honorably discharge me from the clan and stuff. And he said, okay. And then he started saying rumors saying that I didn't like the ally colonists of Halo or this and that, and I got really mad at that. So when the Lunar Republic started off, we didn't really get in contact with the ally colonists of Halo at all. And everything was okay. But then things started turning away when the League of Nations came around. The League of Nations, any of you remember the petition against them at all?
It sounds familiar. It does.
There was a petition, a legit, because Source was part, or at least somewhat part of a Stalkers thing, and
Yeah.
the League of Nations was, someone involved with it. And Spartan Joe did not like it at all. So there was a somewhat mini conflict with them. And Joe brought up a petition, which was a whole bunch of clans signing up on it saying that the League of Nations needs to get out of, Stalkers, this and that. And in some ways, they have to, give up some of their power and have the community regulate the League of Nations. And at one point, I was trying to be friends with Joe again because he was a close friend of mine at one point. And I was looking for an alliance, and he told me that he would give the alliance if I signed the petition. He didn't give any details on what we were supposed to do if we signed a petition. So I was like, all right, then it can't be that bad. Apparently, when you signed a petition, you had no contact whatsoever with the League of Nations, and you're not supposed to help out at all. And this was a problem because I was allied with them, and Source and me are good friends. So when I heard the detail, I said to Joe, why the hell did you sign me up to this when you even never told me this, or just bring it up now? And he's like saying, it's supposed to help out, regulate the community. We need to help this out. And this guy sounds like fucking Elmer fucking Fudd. I'm not joking. He sounds exactly like Elmer Fudd. And I decided, you know what? I'm not even gonna sign this anymore. I'm taking my clan out of it. He still kept the alliance. Now, this is when HighCom got involved. ACH and HighCom got into a war, and Laglink trolled the fuck out of Joe. And Joe did not understand this at all. We all know that Tyler, at least, trolls everyone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were bases that Joe had dragged the Lunar Republic in that were just nothing but these small quarters that you had to crouch down on while there was a Gauss cannon firing down at it. And then, the rest of the HighCom members would be, behind, windows or something like that, or on, platforms sniping down at the spawn, or just teabagging in general. And Joe's like, we need to stop them. We can stop them. I'm like, Joe, this is a fucking troll map. This is degrading. And then he's, saying, but we can take over this and that. I'm like, this is Tyler you're talking about. He's just a troll in general. You're just giving him more fire to do stuff. But he's like, Mark, he's such a useless ally and stuff. Like, you know what? Fine. I'm breaking the alliance with you, Joe. And so I got out of that war because I didn't want to deal with it. And I became friends with Tyler for a while because, well, we all just talked shit about Joe and how stupid he was acting. And later on, Joe starts losing members, and some of the ACH members start joining me because they started to realize after that war that Joe was starting to degrade as a leader in general. He was just doing the same thing over and over, jumping into these troll maps and dumping his members in them. And they started joining me because they knew me well. Joe claimed that I was poaching them. I did not do anything. I was in my own clan. I was just pretty much doing my own thing, just going up against smaller clans. So what he started to do was send spies into the ACH, and then at one point there was this thing called Operation D-Day, where apparently Joe wanted to like start, or at least Joe wanted to just attack us, and he attacked us on a training base that there was not even a base. It was just a whole bunch of banshees on the, was it the coastline? So it was a 3-hour raid, and they eventually left. And then I just declared war on Joe because, like, you know what? Screw it. And for the longest, it was a big war. The UGN got involved, and the UGN got extended the war after Joe disbanded the ACH after a whole bunch of raids of us kicking their ass. And even when Joe left the community, he was still in the routes, just trying to start up a clan again. He always just kept failing. And he started off in MCC as John Walker with the Holy Empire of Halo again. So he's still out there, and my only gripe against that guy is that he doesn't learn anything. And that's why I don't like many leaders. They don't admit to their mistakes. They don't think that they did nothing wrong. And I told Joe plenty of times, even in YouTube videos, I've proven that he was wrong in some things, but he would never admit it to it. And then he also was pretty offensive too by claiming that me and the UGN were exactly like the Nazis in World War II. And me and Michael would just look at these comments like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And there's just so much other details which I don't want to bring up because this podcast would be 10 hours long. But that's it.
All right.
If I may,
Well,
real quick,
yeah, go ahead.
if a clan were to call me or someone called me a Nazi, I would take that with great respect because they were so technologically and tactically smart, and this is a military clan based on the military. So if they're calling you a Nazi, they need to put that in the context of the military aspect of it, not the political side. So by all means, call me a Nazi. That just proves my point that I'm fucking tactically smart. But that's
All
just
right.
my thing.
All right, we're gonna save this Nazi topic. It's gonna be the last topic of the video, but let me continue about people that I've known. So, in the old community, there wasn't really much people that I could say were stupid or kind of like retarded or something like that. There were people that had like that were like considered to be looked down upon in the community. I'm pretty sure a lot of people saw Creed and Terrible Austin. They looked down upon him sometimes, right?
Yeah, I've been seeing them.
But for the new community, when I came back, I've noticed, like, because I do a lot of media now, so I've noticed that a lot of people were kind of more stupid, or there was a lot more people that are just dumb in the community and playing. Now, as for Legling, I haven't met him in the old community. I met him in the new community. I'm okay with him, right? Like, I know he trolls people, and he tried to troll me one time, and I just like said whatever, right? So we're on okay terms, right? But getting on to people, I'm going to list some names that you guys probably know and would probably might agree upon when I say these guys were pretty dumb. And one of the biggest ones is Wolverine, right?
Oh God, I'm
We forgot about
sorry.
Marcy too. We forgot about him.
Yeah, so Wolverine is probably one of the biggest ones on my list, but the newest person that's added to my list was UN Director right now. So, do you guys know much about UN Director?
It rings a
Was
bell.
one of the founders of the board of directors, to my belief.
I'm not sure, but UN Director was the leader, or he used to be go by CHS Infamous or something like that. I'm not sure if you guys
I
know.
think I've met him through
Yeah.
matchmaking one time, but that was it.
Seen him
All
through
right.
YouTube.
So more of the people that are in the community now, like I know Z4 Bros knows who he is, and a lot of other more upstandard clans know who he are. But this is kind of going to deal with like more of my problems. Like he commented on my videos, right? And he's a pretty opinionated guy. I don't really care about that. Like he could go ahead and state his own opinions. But one problem that I've noticed is like on YouTube, people are getting dislike botted. Have you ever seen that?
Oh,
We're getting disliked.
Like dislike botted. Like if you go on the UNR's channel, they had like the 30 dislikes, right?
Oh yeah.
yeah, I know
And
that program.
and then like on HaloClanFollowers for the Golden Age trailers, they got dislike botted as well. And
It's more like, people would just, because it's easy to make a Google Plus account. They just make like 30 of them and just keep switching them out and pressing the same video. But hey, that's more views for you, more money.
yeah, pretty much. But let's talk about one video that I it's completely off topic with you, and then I'll get back to him. And this will probably make Panther laugh. But the one interview that's one of the top ones is with Leglink, and that video has about let's for say 100 or 70 dislikes on it,
With how many
and
likes though?
that's it has 200 likes.
Yeah, it's still a somewhat good ratio, but I can see how the bots have been used.
Yeah, you can see it. Now, from what we know, or from what I know, Leglink told me that the dislike botting that got up to 70, because my videos never get over usually 20 likes or 20 views, or 20 likes or 20 dislikes during the time when I first started doing the interviews. So, Leglink's solution was it was Navcom, because Leglink had problems with Navcom, right?
He still has problems with them.
He still does. And during that time, I showed him a video. I showed him the picture. He laughed, and then in like 10 to 15 minutes later, I refreshed the video. I looked at it, and it had 220 likes. So I don't want to argue with Leglink on this because he's probably gonna be watching this, but it's a bit weird to see that, and I know we've got into an argument over that before. So I'm not gonna say that he did it, but it's just weird in my eyes. But getting back to you and Director, you and Director also, when I got into an argument on his videos, was because he decided to go to war with Z4 Bros, Clan Plague, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much I commented on it, right? And then instantly he replies back, "Get the fuck off my channel. You don't need to be on my channel whatsoever."
Did you even like comment anything bad about him?
I probably did, to be honest with you. I probably did. I honestly said that he was an imposter of the UN clan, right?
Okay.
And then I said a bunch of other stuff. But I've noticed a lot of people gave him criticism too, and his response is usually the same thing: "Get the fuck off my channel," or something like that. And I think one of the whole points of YouTube is like for people to watch your channel, right?
Yeah, and then to get
So,
an impression of you in terms of
so
media.
basically, I seen him also going on other channels commenting hate and everything. But when someone gives him hate, he can't take it, and he just tells people to get off his channel.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's typical. Like that's one of the main things why I just like when I was shutting down Third Echelon and I was going to basically drop off the grid because I was arguing with Leglink, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to argue with him anymore. I'm going to let the community just deal with him because they will then see what I had to go through and put up with for the last couple months, and then they can make their own conclusions on him. And I won't have to try to tell people because before I left Third Echelon, Leglink and I had this massive, like, argument. We'd always send videos towards one another, like, almost every week, sometimes twice a week, and I would try to prove that he was wrong or show or try to put it in a larger context. And he would just like I was bringing up factual information based on sources. He was giving off his own opinion, and I got frustrated. Like he was like concluding that that was fact, that he was right, and my information that had facts and information to back its claims was completely wrong. So I just like, you know what? I'm gonna let the community deal with this. And eventually, like I've gotten messages from people throughout the time saying, "Come back and deal with Lightlink," and I'm like, no, it's not my problem anymore. It's no, not gonna happen.
so
That's just bad tubers in general when it comes down to the herder. You can't talk shit about my clan, or not my clan, just my YouTube channel, but yet they can go around just acting like the same thing that they hate. Like,
Yeah.
so basically, like, it's kind of just safe to say, just ignore these people.
What I did at one point, and Lightlink didn't like this too much, is I got rid of the like and dislike thing off my videos, so you couldn't dislike and like videos that I had put out. That's one thing that I did. He didn't like that too much, from what I understood. Like he commented on it. He was like fighting for me to put it or not. He argued that I was being something. I can't remember the exact word he used, but he didn't like the fact that I did that. And I don't know. It's just something that if you want to do that, then if you're focusing on the content rather than the ratio of likes and dislikes, then it shouldn't matter.
All right, so we're gonna move on because we're about an hour in for this podcast. So this is kind of the last topic, and I was talk. What was the last topic? I think I told you guys what it was, right? It was talking about something. Do you guys remember?
I don't.
Oh,
something,
Nazis.
something dark.
Nazis
Oh,
and stuff
not
like that.
all right.
We're talking about Nazis? Okay, then.
All
Alright.
But
So one of the biggest things that I've seen that came across the community, and everybody probably knows the war between the UNSC and the military, right? The
Yeah.
more common war that I guess is fading away. Oh,
No.
it's fading away. But I think during the beginning of the war, I think one of the biggest clans to start it off, or was being called the Nazis, was the United Union Federation, right?
Yeah, they got that a lot, especially
Right.
recently.
So I think the most recent, or the thing that started it off, would probably be the NRI, right?
Yeah.
Something that was completely Nazi, or that looked completely, just sounded weird. Like, who names their clan National Reichsden Premium, really? In my opinion.
Well,
But
I think like with that whole Nazi thing, I think the community really blew that out of proportion because of the fact that he's got black and red on his flag or whatever. I didn't symbolize that with Nazis or the of with that party at right away. I like he if he were to publicly state like the fact, I mean, black and red is a decent I like black and red. One of my friends always uses black and red for things, so this idea that it represents Nazism is just like that's just like more people's social behavior from looking at CNN and Fox News or whatever and bringing that to Halo. It's just their reaction to it. I think it's just. I mean, if he was publicly and we all know Senator Strike's more of an imperialist and more of a dictator or whatever rather than democracy. But the fact that we didn't give him the opportunity to publicly state what his clan is, how it functions, whatever, was just pure judgment and speculation. I think we should have at least given it a chance to see what he has done. Because believe it or not, dictatorships are way more secure than democracies are. Democracies are so much easier to overthrow and fuck with.
all
So,
right.
I just realized something. Red and black. What? Ruby Rose is a Nazi.
All right. So I guess like the whole thing started with people calling the NRI a Nazi, but later on when the United Union Federation returned back to region, that's when the whole military and UNSC went to war with Exodus and basically NAVCOM in total, right? I believe Strike himself started calling people Nazis, especially the UNSC. He called them fascists and stuff like that.
yeah, I
It's
think
just chatting on the crap.
it's just like an insult. It's like if someone were to call you a punk ass bitch. I mean, that's what you should take it as, and nothing more.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share my own experience with the United Union Federation because I was in the clan, and I was probably one of the reasons why the clan fell itself.
And
But
you probably the oldest person in there too, weren't you?
probably. Now I ran a political group within it, and at the time Strike didn't tell me, but apparently the clan was a dictatorship in the first place. But he told me it was more of a democracy, so that's how he got me into the clan, right? So I ran my own political party called the United Union Enterprise, right? Later on, Strike told me I had no power, so I decided to leave the clan. But during the time within the clan, I believe there was going to be the first or second raid with Navcom. And during this time, Strike always made those videos talking about how Navcom's fascist, the UNSC communities are fascist Nazis and stuff like that. And this is actually a funny story. I was waiting to get into raid with Navcom because I wanted to see how the war was on being the UUF side, right? And once I got into the raid was about to start, I had to go. Later on, I was seeing on Facebook the posts of like Navcom members showing that UUF had a gas chamber map. And not only was it the gas chamber map, they like basically ended up getting people to spawn, and then they'd kill them, and then they'd spawn inside this gas chamber where UUF members would execute them. But going on within this gas chamber map, Strike the whole time was calling everybody a Nazi, the UNSC community, Nazis, communists, fascists.
That's
But right where they were executing them, there was a Nazi sign right behind them.
that's funny then. Yeah, that's
So the map was made by Strike, or it was made for the UUF, and they put a Nazi symbol in there. So, and it was right behind them when they were shooting those
yeah.
the
That would
UNSC guys.
in context. Then yes, you would be able to call
Why,
them Nazis.
why is it in my head I'm thinking of that old Disney cartoon with Donald Duck going, Zeke Heil, Zeke Heil, Zeke Heil, Zeke Heil.
To make things worse about this, the UUF actually lost that raid too.
That actually doesn't surprise me, to be honest. I've fought in UF in combat, especially with
Yeah,
when I was
United
in
Union
NAPCOM.
Federation has always been a clan full of nursery kids, anyways.
Yeah,
How do
that's true.
how do you lose a base though that like has kill boundaries for the enemy though?
You lose the base by giving a weapon to a to a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And basically, after seeing that, I kind of decided like it was time for me to leave UUF. And later on, I came across a Navcom Spartans channel, and it was I watched one of the most famous videos of 3 Navcom Spartans taking down UUF.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good video right there.
there's a story told for the ages.
And
Yep.
it was a machinima about it, but it was actually gameplay from the game. So I believe one of them actually uploaded the gameplay of them getting into the map, and it strikes like Navcom, what do you want, right? And then all of a sudden, like the 3 Spartans, and I believe it was John and 2 other Spartans. All I know is John was one of them, and they took out all the UUF members, and they've got all the power weapons. And Strike was sitting there with a bunch of UUF members that were in banshees, scorpions, and everything. So when I watched that video, I kind of laughed, and I guess UUF went downhill without me too, because I was attracting a lot of members within the clan itself, right? But to make things funny and more things, I got blacklisted on UUF just for leaving.
Yeah, it's they. I don't know why people
Well,
in this community are so mental. It's ridiculous.
well, actually, I used to do that as a safety precaution because when people used to leave the clan, they would always come back just to fucking ruin the place. And that was like a major problem I kept having. So I developed that as a standard safety precaution, but I
But you
doubt.
wouldn't need to blacklist them to do that. You could just deny them from enlisting because of prior issues. You wouldn't
I
need to
rem-
sit there and blacklist them, and
uh,
that would cause a
Well, we
negative impact on
blacklisted.
them overall.
I blacklisted. Let me rephrase. I blacklisted them because what kept on happening is they kept infiltrating the clan, and they done this because they knew a lot of the members, and I have no control in how they use the Xbox Live profile at all because obviously it's their own thing, and they listen to me how they want to listen. I advise not to speak to these individuals, but they'll always end up calling in somehow, and it was always through one of the members, and that's when I developed the blacklisting. And whenever someone left, judging by how they left, they would get blacklisted, and I would develop codes from green to black. And if they were code green, obviously it's not that bad. But then when it goes to amber, then red and black, then that's when you can't really speak to those individuals. But as I said, it was more of a safety precaution.
All right.
I know
So
Spartan Joe used to blacklist everyone that left the ACH to join my clan. It was really funny, to be honest.
all right. So we're kind of getting towards the end of this podcast, and this was the last topic. So let's quickly go over it. We're gonna ask opinions on people calling each other Nazis. I know Panther gave his to Link, but he might want to explain more. So let's start with Otto. What was your opinion on people on clans calling other people Nazis, fascists, or communists?
Well, I think it's totally out their place because, believe it or not, the people that are making these statements are pretty much that themselves. Because Sentry Strike has in no way he's in no position to be talking about being a Nazi because the man's a dictator, a bit like myself. I mean, I have no authority to kind of go to someone, hey, well, you're this, you're that, because of my history. And Sentry Strike has a bad history and how he controls people. So I believe he's lost the power to kind of say that about people. But I don't think it's right that people are making jokes out of things like that. Like one of the biggest things that I've seen people do, like I've seen SOH do it a couple of times as well, is jokes about 9/11, and I find that disgusting that people make jokes about events like that. And to be honest, when I see stuff like that, that always drives me closer to want to leave the community because of the disrespect people have for one another nowadays.
I have a personal connection to that because I was actually down there when because I used to live in Lower Manhattan and I saw that as like a 5-year-old. So that's when I hear 9/11 jokes, they're not exactly the most keen. I'll say the least.
All right. Let's move on to you Panther. What's your opinion on it? I know you already went into lengths about it.
Yeah, I mean it's basic context. I mean we can't get emotional over something that's happened. That Now that it was a tragedy, but we can't get emotional now for something that happened 10 years ago. We need to be rational about it. We can't go do something based on emotion that has never worked at all throughout history.
I'm not,
And
I'm not saying that. Like when I
no,
was like mentioning that.
yeah, and that's what I'm getting to. Like the fact that someone calls someone a Nazi. I mean, personally, I take that as a compliment. Communist, I'd be like, okay, what context are you putting this in? Are you putting it into the context that I'm leading, like I lead groups, and I'm usually the person, and that's the higher up, and don't really have a staff. I mean, like I ask for context and details. I know a lot of people don't do that, and that's just my own thing. Like I'll sit there and be like, okay, you call me a Nazi. Why? Why am I a Nazi? Prove your points. Bring your evidence. No? Okay, then it's just a random insult and I don't care. Because if you've ever played Splinter Cell, and this is where I take a lot of this ideology from, when you're sneaking around in the dark, whatever, these jumpy guards, are sitting there calling you out, calling you and come out here and face me, asshole. It's like, no. Why?
I
Why
know.
would I? It's just like you just put it into the context, like, why? I mean, no. Screw you, get away from me. Or I'll kill you when I want to kill you. You don't have any
I,
control what happens with
I
me.
remember this is I think this is one of the most funniest moments in the community. I remember someone called the Lunar Republic communist because I was usually the one leading a lot of the stuff, and I'm reading this on my phone, and I was eating at a McDonald's. So I'm like, this is the most ironic place for you to call me a communist.
No, it's just for me. It's just about context. That's all it is.
All right. How about you, Fred?
Now, like I said before, I'm not going to openly disrespect people, but the whole Nazi thing going around, that's one thing. Personally, I'm not, big on those types of conversations, but I don't know. Personally, I was more of the era of people coming and calling each other narcissists, not so much Nazis. And I'm just thinking to myself, communist, that's really not that much of an insult. I personally find that, that's a idealistic kind of government system. Dictatorships, that's one thing, but narcissists, that's another thing. But to call someone a Nazi, I don't know. I feel like people are running out of insults.
I've heard I've heard autistic. I've heard the N word. A lot of things.
All right. Now, when you said narcissist, Fred, were you referring to clans that called you that?
Oh no, I used to not really be that big of a leader back then. More of a quiet follower. But, I'm not going to say names, but Panther, you know what I'm talking about. There were a lot of leaders being called narcissists.
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to you last. Marcus,
Hmm?
what's your opinion on basically the whole Nazi, communists, and fascist thing, or
Uh,
narcissist?
I remember this one time someone called me a communist, and I said you can't have farms on Halo Reach.
Okay.
And when it comes down to it, in like a serious topic, I mean, if you want to call out, communism, this and that, and all that, just remember that this is mostly a role playing game, and some people can actually role play as communists, clans and stuff. So as far as I know, it doesn't really affect me. That's like people trying to, like, I've had people try to call me a UNSC clan as an insult, and I'm like, okay, thank you. I don't know. It's like a lot of the time they just like say random words that apparently they're offensive, but they don't really know how to use them. Especially the word autistic. Like they're like, Herder, you're so autistic for using this like base. I'm like, okay. It's like a lot of the time I've dealt with so much internet trolls. I've been on 4chan for God's sakes. So the insults I hear in the Halo Clan community or anything like that don't really affect me at all.
All right. I believe that's all we have to talk about for this podcast. We'll probably get in more later on. You guys are welcome to come back for the podcast, but let's do one more advertisement for Stimulus, all right? So this podcast of Community Live is brought to you by Stimulus Network. Join Stimulus's launch this fall by subscribing to Stimulus Production, a YouTube channel that's going to be focusing on gaming news, achievement hunts, game reviews, and much more. Also subscribe to Team Stimulus, a Let's Play team that will bring you guys amazing content and amazing Let's Plays. But yeah, thank you guys for coming on Community Live.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. This will be uploaded to the HaloClanFollowers channel for anyone that's going to be viewing this stream later on over Twitch. And it will be edited so that way we could have a better quality and it's more something to listen to. But yeah, the next community live is gonna probably be happening sometime next week. I'm not sure. I don't have an exact date. So if anybody watching this video over YouTube wants to watch the live stream, all you gotta do is follow me on Twitter, Debatable Halo, and look for my tweets. Also like my page on Facebook, Debatable Halo, or like the Halo Clan Followers page, and you guys will be notified on the next stream. And if you guys want to be featured on the community live podcast, all you got to do is comment down below on Halo Clan Followers video, and I'll add you on Skype, or you add me on Skype, whatever it be. And the whole point of the community live is to try to bring more people from like the small part of the community and big part of the community together, talk about some problems, and talk about some of the past and whatnot, and we share some stories. So I'm pretty sure that's what we did today, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so that is it for Community Live Podcast number 1. If you guys enjoyed, like this video up, comment down below, and yeah, we'll be live streaming later on in the week, I guess, or next week. But that's it for this live stream, that's it for this video, and I'll talk to everybody later on Halo Clan Followers.